Los Angeles was a city of contrasts, where dreams were either born or crushed beneath the weight of reality. For every star who made it, thousands faded into the background, lost in the endless struggle of survival. Jason Miller knew this all too well. At 26 years old, he had spent nearly a decade chasing his dream of becoming an actor. He had sacrificed everything: family gatherings, friendships, financial stability, all in the hope that one day someone would notice him. But that day never seemed to come. Instead, Jason spent his nights waiting tables at a small diner off Sunset Boulevard, serving people who barely noticed him, disappearing into the background like just another struggling dreamer. Every day he woke up, memorized lines, rehearsed, auditioned, faced rejection, and repeated the cycle. He told himself that persistence was key, that every no was one step closer to a yes. But after years of rejection, that belief was beginning to crack. Was he fooling himself? Was it time to give up? Tuesday night. The dinner rush had just died down. Jason wiped down tables, lost in thought, mentally replaying his latest audition, a supporting role in a low-budget indie film. He had poured everything into that performance, but the casting director hadn't even looked up when she dismissed him. "We'll be in touch," she had said, already moving on to the next actor. Jason knew what that meant. They never call back, he thought bitterly. Just as he was stacking plates, the diner's doorbell chimed. Jason barely looked up. Another late-night customer, nothing special. Then he heard his co-worker, Mike, whispering behind him. "No freaking way. Dude, look at who just walked in." Jason turned toward the entrance, and his breath caught. Denzel Washington. The Denzel Washington, one of the greatest actors of all time, a man Jason had idolized since childhood, was standing right there, in his section. For a moment, Jason forgot how to breathe. He had watched every movie Denzel had ever starred in. He admired his intensity, his craft, his dedication. And now, the legend himself was sitting in his booth, casually flipping through a menu, unaware that Jason's entire world had just shifted. Jason forced himself to move, wiping his damp palms on his apron. This was his moment, his one chance. Taking a deep breath, he approached the table. "Good evening, sir," Jason said, keeping his voice steady. "What can I get for you tonight?" Denzel looked up, his piercing eyes scanning Jason with quiet curiosity. "Just a coffee, son." Jason nodded, but his heart was hammering. He turned away to get the coffee, his mind racing. Should he say something? Would that be too much? Too desperate? He had met celebrities before. Los Angeles was full of them. But Denzel Washington wasn't just a celebrity. He was an icon. And Jason couldn't shake the feeling that this moment was happening for a reason. Jason returned, carefully setting the coffee down in front of Denzel. Just as he turned to leave, Denzel spoke. "You look like a man with something to say," he said, his voice smooth but commanding. Jason froze. Was it that obvious? Taking a breath, he decided to take the risk. "Actually, sir," Jason said, "I'm an aspiring actor. I've been auditioning for years, but it's tough. I just wanted to say that you've been a huge inspiration to me." Denzel leaned back, studying Jason with a quiet intensity. "What's the last role you auditioned for?" he asked. Jason hesitated. Was this really happening? "It was a small part in an indie film," he admitted. "Just 2 lines." Denzel nodded. "Let's hear it." Jason felt the blood drain from his face. Was he serious? Denzel Washington, the Denzel Washington, was asking him to perform? Every nerve in Jason's body screamed, "Don't mess this up." He took a deep breath, his mind racing through the lines. Then he delivered them with everything he had. When he finished, there was a heavy silence. Denzel nodded slowly, a small smile forming. "You've got something, kid." Then he reached into his pocket, pulled out a small notebook, and scribbled something down. Sliding the note across the table, he said, Call this number. Tell them I sent you. There's an audition next week. Be there." Jason stared at the piece of paper. His hands trembled as he picked it up. This wasn't happening, but it was. "I don't know what to say. Thank you, Mr. Washington." Denzel smiled. "Hard work and talent will get you far, but sometimes you just need a little push." Jason watched as Denzel finished his coffee, left a generous tip, and walked out as if nothing extraordinary had happened. But for Jason, everything had changed. A week later, Jason stood outside a massive glass building, his pulse erratic. Inside, he was ushered into a huge casting room filled with some of the biggest names in Hollywood. This was it. A script was handed to him. "Whenever you're ready." Jason didn't just read the lines. He lived them. When he finished, the room was dead silent. Then the casting director leaned forward. "That was incredible. Welcome to the project." Jason felt his world shift. He had done it. Months later, Jason's career was taking off. He was shaking hands with directors, attending premieres, everything he had ever dreamed of. Then, at a Hollywood gala, he spotted him. Denzel Washington. Jason walked over, his heart pounding. "Mr. Washington," he said, "I just wanted to say thank you again." Denzel turned, a knowing smile forming. "Jason Miller," he said, "I see you took that push and ran with it." Jason chuckled. "You gave me a shot when no one else would. I'll never forget that." Denzel placed a hand on his shoulder. "Then make sure you do the same for someone else when the time comes." Jason nodded. "I will." And in that moment, he realized that a single act of kindness had changed his life forever. Sometimes one person's belief in you can change everything. A single moment, a small opportunity, an act of kindness. It can turn someone's entire life around. And when success comes knocking, never forget to lift others up, because that's how greatness continues.